game if you're a fan of Jameis Winston, which I am, and by extension the New Orleans Saints, because they gave him a chance, another opportunity to be a starting quarterback, and also an opportunity to compete for and win that job. But now that Winston is the starting quarterback, it seems to me that Sean Payton and somebody else has an issue where they have to bend over backwards to make Taysom Hill look good. Let's work backward from where we're at. The Giants won the game in overtime, drove down the field using a set of creative plays, including Daniel Jones on a scramble, and catching the Saints off guard. One blown coverage is all it took, and they scored. In overtime today, there's no way to come back the way they have it engineered. If you score a touchdown, game over. You don't get a chance to fight back. But the Saints should not have been in that position. The simple fact of the matter is that this contest hinged on two plays. And the first one was just after Jameis threw a touchdown pass that would have sealed the game, but it was called back because of a holding penalty on Adam Trotman. But rather than simply say, you know what, we're going to load up, it's holding play, which means what? It means you get to run the down again. Sure, you lose 10 yards, but you get to run the down again. So rather than have Jameis come back and throw another deep pass, which he's adept at doing, what do? They bring in Taysom Hill on a 1st and 20. They bring in Taysom Hill on a 1st and 20 and have him throw a play action fake just out of spread formation, just as they had Jameis throw a play action out of being under center. And he throws deep, but guess what? Because he's not a great deep thrower, the ball is thrown directly to the receiver rather than leading him. The receiver has to stop, and when the receiver stops, who does the receiver bring with him? But the defensive back who's covering him. So guess what? Defensive back wins the battle, intercepts the pass, erases what should have been a touchdown drive. Just like that. You go from hero to nothing. And all because they took Jameis Winston, who had the hot hand. At that point, he had completed 10 straight passes. And I know Jameis Winston had no interception in this contest. Taysom Hill had the one. Okay? That was the first time. The second time was on a 3rd and 2. A routine 3rd and 2. Rather than keep Winston in and run a rollout pass or give him a pass run option, right? Which he's good at running. What do? They bring in Taysom. And they run that play that everybody in the whole stadium in the NFL knows he's going to run, that lead with the guard off tackle play. And not surprisingly, the Giants are ready for it, and they stuff it because they know the packages that the Saints have for Taysom Hill. But guess what? They could have ran a fake and given Winston the opportunity to run for a 1st down. Something that would be unexpected. They didn't do that. In this entire game, the Saints didn't do anything that was unexpected except one big thing, an over-reliance on Taysom Hill. It's like, rather than let Jameis have his big moment, which really, if you start to track the passing yardage racking up, would have led to a 400-yard game without question. I mean, he was on his way there. But oh no, they had to stop their own party. It's like throwing your own party and saying, well, you know what? We don't want certain people to have a really, really good time. So we're just going to put Taysom in because he's the white crowd favorite. And we're going to make sure that he gets his due so that we can make our white fans happy. That's the behavior that they exhibit. There's no other reason other than racism to explain it. No other quarterback in the National Football League gets those opportunities. And I'm not saying he isn't good at running. He is. But they overused him, and they got into this drug of trying to figure out more passes for him. Jameis Winston needs to have more turns at bat in that offense, more time to run the offense, more time to throw. Jameis Winston, I don't care what anybody says, is one of the best passers in the National Football League. They're leaving their stallion in the barn. The Saints are leaving their stallion in the barn. It's like they don't want their stallion to romp. They don't. Think about it. Look against the Carolina Panthers. They came up with an offensive attack that made me think that the Saints had never called an offensive play against a wide tackle six. And the wide tackle six defense, is about 47 years old. You should be used to seeing that. And that's all the Panthers were doing when all was said and done. Yet, there are 10 different types of passes the Saints could have ran against the Panthers to attack their defense. They ran none of them. Guess what? The next game, ironically enough, against the Patriots, they did run some of them. Now, what do I mean? Like, for example, what I call zero passes, where the wide receiver either turns around and just goes up 1 yard and gets the pass, right? Or a quick screen of the wide receiver, which we still haven't seen. But we saw it once this time with Harris, okay? And we need to see more of that. You could feed that to Winston. They had some of the idea with their flat passes to Kamara and a mix. But using formations to really spread out the defense, having receivers outside the numbers on both sides, not done. Using the formations in such a way as to put 4 wide receivers on one side like they did against the Patriots, 1 wide receiver and then running a slant, not done this game. I can go on and on and on about the number of ways the Saints could have taken advantage of what the Giants were doing, but they didn't. They were obsessed, quite literally, with making this the Taysom Hill show. And they lost. And I think what happened, too, was that it seemed like psychologically the Saints' own defenders knew that this game was lost by their coach. And they seemed to play like it. The energy was just taken out of them. And the Giants were determined to win. As my mom, 87 years old as of Friday, pointed out, the Giants want to win. They haven't won a game. They played like it. They called plays like they wanted to win. The Saints didn't call plays like they wanted to win. The Saints called plays like they were trying to get certain people accolades. If you want to win, you go with the best person you have at quarterback, the best person at wide receiver, the best person at tight end. If it turns out Taysom Hill is your best pass-catching tight end other than Adam Troutman, throw to him. But do not have him throw deep passes that you know damn well Jameis Winston throws better and should be throwing. I mean, I'm looking forward to your comments. I know some of you are just watching right now, but hey, look, the simple fact of the matter is this is something that is for discussion, because I have never seen a football game called where the team that obviously was better seemed to play as if it was playing to lose. I was texting privately with Nick Underhill, and we were both talking about how horrible the call was with respect to Taysom Hill. And as Nick tweeted, you just let Jameis play. All right? There's some people out there who are obsessed with this idea that has nothing to do with football about Jameis Winston and Erica Kinsman, which was long ago settled. Jameis didn't do anything wrong to anyone. Same with the Uber driver and same with the whole crab legs thing that people like to talk about. All right? He didn't do anything wrong. And Jameis Winston is one of many black men who get caught up in a system that creates these fantasy fake stories about black men doing something wrong all the time, or being bad, or angry, or anything else. You see where that's got us? It's got us to a point where the Saints, a better team than the Giants, should have won. Save for this. I give New York Giants offensive coordinator, former Dallas Cowboys head coach Jason Garrett, a whale of credit for putting together one of the most offensively creative approaches I've seen this season. Not forever, but this season. But the simple fact of the matter is that the Giants had the better offensive attack, the better approach by coaching. Not necessarily the best players, about even on offense. Defense, they put their defenders in the right position. But the Saints got to a point where they were up 21-10. 21-10. All right? And they didn't hold on to it. And really, they should have been up 28-10. They're up 28-10. They don't lose that game. But they let the Giants hang around. And the 3 minutes to end the game, for anyone who wanted the Saints and Jameis Winston to win, were horrifying. Simply because, and this is not the fault of the offense, but defensively, the Saints, for example, seem to fall in love with playing zones a lot and not in love with exotic blitzes. I don't mean like where you're sending 7 people, 5, right? Overloading to one side, like, and making sure you're going to stop the runner that Daniel Jones, who is a good quarterback, can be. Daniel Jones is very underrated. I think he catches a lot of flack for nothing, and he will eventually, if the Giants get a good defensive approach, that will make Giants fans appreciate Daniel Jones all the more. I used to call him Danny Dimes because he was throwing dimes. He threw some dimes this time. Daniel Jones is not a bad quarterback. The numbers show it. The numbers he racked up against the Saints show it. At one point, he was 20 of 29. But my point is that if you had taken Jameis Winston and put him in the same attack, he would have done better. You understand what I'm saying? He would have done better. But see, Jameis doesn't get that opportunity because he's with a team that is obsessed with making Taysom Hill look good, pretty much at Jameis Winston's expense. And why do I say that? They're taking Winston out and then put Hill in. And they took Winston out and put Hill in to do the bread and butter that Jameis Winston is known for, the deep pass. The one thing that Coach Payton said, Jameis Winston does in a way that they've never seen before. So if that's the case, why would you then have Taysom Hill throw the same kind of pass when you should remember from training camp and from last season, the guy shot puts the ball and it gets intercepted and the receivers always have to slow down for it. How many times have we seen that? Have you seen that movie, folks? How many times? Anybody got a comment? I guess not. I'm going to keep talking. I'll read your comments if you post them, but I'm going to keep talking because this has got to be talked about. What team puts itself in a position to where it has no problem taking actions that eventually lose the game, and you and I both know it's going to cause them to lose the game as it's happening? People on Twitter are pointing this out as it's going on, folks. Not just me, by far. Everyone is saying, hey, you've got Winston. What's the problem? Let Jameis hunt, right? Let him throw. Let him do the job. Don't worry about him getting super great statistics because that's what you want. It's like they don't want Jameis Winston to have the kind of accolades he had after the Packers when we had 5 touchdown passes and only 123 yards passing, right? And take a look at how this game would have turned out if they had just kept Jameis going. He had 10 straight passes, I think 11 straight passes, excuse me, before his streak ended with that screen that wasn't. And he could have got to a point where if they just kept feeding him the ball and letting him throw, that he had 21 straight passes, or excuse me, 21 straight passes and 1 incompletion, and no interceptions. So they basically took Jameis, what would have been a signature game with the Saints, away from him by losing. You cannot blame this loss on Jameis Winston. As much as a number of you might want to, you're itching to do so, you can't. You can blame it on Taysom Hill for throwing an interception because you would have blamed it on Jameis Winston. You can blame Taysom Hill for not getting the 3rd and 2 because you would have blamed it on Jameis Winston. And realistically, you should blame the whole kit and caboodle on Sean Payton because he called the plays. And that's why I have the picture of them together, because it's not really either one of their faults. They're simply doing what they're asked to do. But the framework within which what Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill are asked to do is based on racism. Okay? It shouldn't be an equal quarterback division. You got one quarterback. Be happy with your one quarterback. You don't need quarterback by committee when the other person that you are putting in the committee can't even throw as well as your really great national champion, NFL record holding yardage champion quarterback. And people keep mentioning the 30 interceptions. You know what? That's the fault of scheme. All right? That's the fault of scheme. Right now, Wildcat says Saints are trash. 2W. Hey, hard to argue with that after that game. When you call plays that don't work, when you call plays based on racism, and what else does it look like? Again, you kept your best horse in the barn. That's what the Saints did. That's what Sean Payton did. He kept their best horse, Jameis Winston, in the barn. Okay? All right? I'm a Saints fan, but they just lost. They had one job. Yeah, they had one job. And it was Wildcat football. All right? I'm glad you posted that Wildcat football because they're obsessed with using the Wildcat with Taysom Hill. I mean, come on. All right? Yeah, they had one job. And not only that, Wildcat, all right, one job. Jameis Winston has his one job. He did his one job well. Taysom Hill had his one job. He did his one job well. But where they messed up was when they let Hill beat or try to beat Jameis. You cannot throw like Jameis Winston. And if Taysom, okay, and Wildcat says Drew Brees, he was better. Wildcat, I don't think Drew Brees is better than Jameis Winston. Drew Brees knows the offense better than Jameis Winston, but he is not a better passer. And see, that's why I believe the Saints have this mental illness problem regarding race, okay? It's like they don't want Jameis Winston to be as good as Drew Brees was, and he can be. There's a lot of offense that Drew Brees knew and could use that knowledge to overcome his own physical weaknesses. But last year, after a point, it became too much. And then the Saints wasted a lot of time with indecision. Do we go with Taysom or do we go with Jameis, all right? When they should have just said, you know what, Jameis Winston has a lot more experience at being a passing quarterback than Taysom Hill. We're going to train him in our system. And if they had done that through preseason, Jameis would have been much further along in the offense, would have known a wider repertoire of plays to run and to change into with an audible, okay? They hurt themselves, okay? Okay? No, Wildcat, I'll block you for saying that. Taysom caused it. Don't even. You think that? You're nuts, man. Completely nuts, okay? Completely nuts. All right? Taysom Hill lost the game for them. You want him back in as quarterback? That is nuts, all right? Completely nuts. No way. Again, you got a stallion in Jameis Winston. And more than that, having a stallion, use the proper plays to have him throw. We saw some brilliant play calling at points early on. Like, for example, the touchdown pass that Jameis threw, that was a shake route. Remember the complaints that, well, the receivers aren't getting open? Hey, someone finally decided to go to the Bill Walsh playbook and run the shake route. You turn out, thanks, David, you turn out, and you come back in, you're wide open because you gain separation from the defensive back. You're wide open in the end zone. Jameis throws it on the dime. Boom, touchdown. How many dimes did Jameis Winston throw today? Quite a few. Short, medium, and long. I personally thought the best pass he threw was on 3rd and 2. Crossing route. Hit right between the 8 and the 3. First down. Okay? I can go on and on and on about how brilliant Jameis Winston was, how hot his hand was, and how you go. This simple rule. When you have your quarterback with a hot hand, you don't cool your quarterback's hand down by leaving him on the bench. Dude, for crucial downs. I mean, it's like, are they stuck on stupid? That's why I said it's racism. We got to have Taysom in. Why? Okay, why? All right. Wildcat says 2-2. They better do better next Sunday. You think? What is the most damaging about this is this was engineered by the Saints themselves. This was their game to win, and they figured out a way to lose it because they had to. We've got to slow down the game early. We've got to get Taysom in early. I mean, it's just completely nonsensical. All right? Aaron Moss says, Winston had under 23 passing attempts again. The Saints have basically neutered. Yeah, that's right. He did. They did. They neutered him. I couldn't think of Adam, I could not think of a better word to use. They neutered him. It's like they don't want their best stallion out there, okay? They don't want their best stallion out there doing the best for them. And what is that but racism? You want to tell me that if they had Daniel Jones in, they would have done that? No. And I don't want to hear this stuff about Tampa. That was an entirely different offense. Okay? And if you're not creative enough, the Saints aren't creative enough to design the kind of plays that other NFL teams are running right now, then Sean needs to step down as coach. That's the only way to explain this horrible season. Arguably, the Saints can be undefeated, should be undefeated. But they gave the game to Carolina, and they gave this one to New York. 2 games where the Saints coaching staff and approach clearly lost the battle. And by their own admission, they were not prepared. Okay? By their own admission, they were not prepared. That takes some chutzpah, you know? You're going to come out and then after the contest against the Panthers, admit that you weren't prepared. Admit basically what I knew as the game was going on. They were not prepared. And the Panthers are throwing some simple 47-year-old defense at them, but that they go gaga over because the linebackers are up and not back. Excuse me. That's 1960s, 1970s, 1950s when you had Sam Huff as the middle linebacker for the New York Giants defense that was coached by Tom Landry, and he had Vince Lombardi as the Giants offensive coordinator, all right? That stuff is old, all right? Wildcat Football says Drew Brees should be coach. Not a bad idea, okay? Or offensive assistant, you know, someone to basically keep maybe offensive play caller, right? Keep Sean out of it. As long as Drew doesn't get corrupted by the Taysom Hill disease, as I call it, all right? Because that's a disease. And you have Saints PR people. This is how bad it is, folks. On Instagram, before this game, you had the Saints PR people with a photograph of Taysom Hill, but not Jameis Winston. If you're going to have Jameis Winston on your staff, as your starting quarterback. You need to fully embrace him, not halfway like the Saints are doing. Well, everything is okay, because he's black. That's why. Because he's black. Same thing with Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater arguably should have been the heir apparent for Drew Brees, but they didn't bother to try to keep him. They let him go. They should have said, "You're the one," okay? So obviously they have some sort of struggle there. Yeah, people down there that are so stocked with mental illness of racism, they can't get their minds around having a black signal caller as their leader. Get over it. Stop costing people money. Stop being a loser. People who think that way are losers, okay? That's just a fact. Racism never got anyone anywhere. It doesn't help the people who complain about it, or who, when I say complain about it, let me explain what it means as I'm complaining about it, right? David says, you would think at this time period we would be past this race, but I guess being the right color is what matters. But here's the thing, though. It's not so much that being the right color matters. It's that being the right color is a silly discussion. Because my point is that, as the person who mentions race in the title, I have to explain that. What I'm talking about is that racism is a mental illness in two ways. It causes people who are impacted by it, like black men or black folks, to be fearful of someone white who might do it, let alone somebody black who also might do it. Another story entirely. All right. On the other hand, the racism that's a mental illness aspect I'm talking about in this case means that is translated by the Saints putting Taysom Hill in and being obsessed with elevating him, even though Jameis Winston is the best quarterback they've got by miles. Excuse me, light years. Jameis Winston is light years better than Taysom Hill as a full-fledged quarterback. Swiss Army knife, fine. But you know what? You don't need to use every part of your Swiss Army knife. Just use the ones that work. Use the blades that are sharpest, like the running blade. But the passing blade, it's dull. Don't use it. In fact, you're better off taking that out of your Swiss Army knife, because it ain't working for you. Taysom Hill exhibited the same kind of passing problems we've seen again and again and again. And yet, they put him in a crucial game to do what you and I both know he's not good at doing. Turned over by interception. Giving the Giants life. Give him on a 3rd and 2. And then how many times did they take him out on top of all of that? Okay? I completely blame Sean Payton for this loss. Absolutely Smallville. This is on Sean Payton. What is going on in his head where he is jeopardizing his own team's success and his own? And that's why I say there's no other explanation than racism. Is the owner driving him? And again, I point to the fact that the Saints PR department is obsessed with promoting Taysom Hill. Sean Payton was hoping Winston played bad against the Jags so he could have an excuse to start Taysom Hill. Yeah, and guess what happened? He killed them. Jameis Winston left no doubt that he's a Heisman Trophy winner, national champion, was considered the chosen one coming out of Huey Town High, available to whatever college he wanted. I say he should have went to Stanford and not Florida State. He went to Florida State, became a national champion, fine. But under Stanford, I think he would have become a more complete person earlier on, learning under African-American David Shaw, who understands better how to be honest with you, how to swim in a white world and excel. He could have learned a lot from David Shaw, and then made a lot of friends at Stanford who were creating different startups, getting VC money. He could have invested in those companies, right? Come out even wealthier. That's what Andrew Luck is doing. Andrew Luck's no fool. That's the other reason he retired. I know all these people at Stanford. I just hang out in Palo Alto, okay? And invest his coin. Huh. All right? Jameis has to take some blame picking up to sign with the Saints. I do not, what, I don't, well, I don't think Jameis has to take any blame because where else was he going to go? The Bears? I mean, there are people putting out feelers, but let's face it, the Saints gave him an opportunity. Plus, also the Saints gave Jameis an opportunity to be better in the same division to prove to the Buccaneers that they made a mistake. And let's be honest with each other, okay? I don't care who likes it or not. The fact of the matter is that Jameis Winston has proven that. And the more Tom Brady plays, like tonight, and makes interceptions and mistakes like he did last week, the more that will become evident. Let's see what happens can you imagine the earthquake if it happens, the Patriots wind up beating the Buccaneers tonight? Just saying. All right? Just saying. But my point is, none of that should impact the Saints' play calling. They should be thinking, oh boy, we got one of the best quarterbacks ever from our arch rival. And we're going to ride that horse like we're Zorro, to steal a line from, I forgot who that used that term. I want to ride you like Zorro until, it'll come to me later. But if you remember that, just put that out there. I'm going to ride you like Zorro. But anyway, I was going to say, if you remember that line, just simply type it in, there. It'll come to me when I'm not focused on it as much. But my point is, they didn't ride Jameis like Zorro. They rode Jameis like they were afraid that Jameis was going to throw him off. Really, that's how they rode it. It's just like, well, we're not going to giddy up, hug, right? They're just going to say, well, okay, we'll just go into the grass here, graze a little bit, eat a little bit, gallop a little bit, but not too much because we don't want people to be too impressed with what you can do. That's how they acted. And it's been more than once. Carolina, again, I say this, wide tackle 6, you use short passes. And you don't use long developing plays like those screens that Sean has a tendency to install and put in. You use wide receiver quick screens like they did this time once with Harris against the Giants. That should have been by a factor of 4, folks, with different receivers. Oh, and by the way, Alvin Kamara, put in a wide receiver screen for him, catch the defense off guard. Make Kamara the guy on the outside with the 4 wide receivers over here, okay? They don't think you're going to throw to him. Give him the quick screen, With one offensive lineman going out there, boom, okay? Be creative. Have you seen a end around or reverse from the Saints? I haven't. Have you seen a jet sweep run from the Saints? I haven't seen one. Have you seen a jet sweep run with a play action off of it from the Saints? I haven't seen one. No, I take that back. They did do it once. In preseason. Which brings me to my point, okay? And it says no TDs for AK-41. I know that he is upset. Absolutely. No TDs from him. And do you realize that they took away one of Jameis, the first completion that he made to Alvin Kamara, they didn't even call that a completion. So on Fox, on the telecast, they actually took that away from it when it was obviously a completion. I mean, it's these little things that they do to try to discredit Jameis Winston. And they add up to a point where you have to say, well, why are you so sick? They hurt a lot of people. They hurt people, not just fans, but people whose livelihoods are gained by the Saints winning. I'm not talking about betting people either. I'm talking about people who sell memorabilia, jerseys, offshoots of jerseys, anything that have to do with the Saints. They hurt them when they take away their own ability to win for reasons that are based on racism. And that is why I continuously say that racism is the ultimate mental illness there is. David says, this sounds like the case of Joe Gallum, who was pushed to have Terry Bradshaw put back in as starter for the Steelers in the 70s. Yeah, it is. It is very much like that. He says, you see, they gave Jalen Johnson the touchdown pass and the fumble. Yeah, they kept doing that. And it took Michael Strahan to say, well, that wasn't a touchdown pass, right? But they kept doing that. I mean, just if you don't see what the racism is that's out there, I'm pointing it out to you. This is stuff that's there. It's not imagined. Okay? Because all of the examples are episodes and events and actions that are illogical. Why lie about a statistic? Why take your best passer out and put in the guy that you know on a deep pass is more likely to throw an interception? Why take your field general out on 3rd and 2 and have your guy come in when the Giants and everybody in the stadium knows what that dude is going to run, and then he gets stuffed? Smallville says it's still in the stat line as a TD. Should be taken out. And I'll make a video on that. That is not a touchdown. John Ross recovered a fumble in the end zone. That's the way that should read. Ross, F. Recover, TD. No touchdown for Jones. But they won't do it because they're trying to make that white guy look good. That's exactly what's going on. The NFL is obsessed with this idea of making sure that you stick with them by having white signal callers. When in point of fact, this highly integrated country of ours, this beautiful United States of America, doesn't care about that sort of thing anymore. Okay? Unfortunately, it seems that some of the people who do care about it have a little extra money to spend that they are better off spending on feeding the hungry. You hear what I'm saying? And you would say, why would I, go to that? Because one of the main donors of the Capitol riots is on the Publix, the public supermarket, Harris. She put in $300,000 of her own money. $300,000. I mean, do you have something better to do? This is crazy stuff. I mean, nutso stuff, okay? Like the wrong people have a lot of money. And they don't know what to do with it other than to vomit up their hatred through the expression of how it's spent. And I have a feeling that some of these people are influencing what the Saints do. Because again, I go back to the Saints PR department consistently pushing Taysom Hill. Try doing that now. You remember how last week Jameis Winston said that his overthrow that was a catch by Marcus Callaway for a touchdown was God when he was throwing it away? Well, this is God too. God does not like ugly. So this week they're pushing Taysom Hill on Instagram. No picture of Jameis Winston at all. This stuff, and see, this stuff has to stop. It's hurting the Saints, okay? It's hurting the Saints big time. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's caused them a loss. It has caused them the opportunity to go undefeated. They should be 4-0 now. The New Orleans, I will say this again, the New Orleans Saints should be 4-0. That they're 2-2 is an insult, considering the talent they have at quarterback, on defense. I don't care about the people out, because really, there are only two who are out. Michael Thomas is on the PUP list. What's his name was suspended for the season. You counted him out a long time ago. You have a roster of players. You can replace those folks. You could have gotten Josh Morgan, brought him in at wide receiver. Can you see him paired with the returning Michael Thomas? I can. So this is a crisis period for the Saints. They need to really sit down and say, what the heck are we doing? And then stop doing it. Because it's not getting them what they want. It's not getting Saints fans what Saints fans. It's not getting anybody what they want, except, well, the Giants won. Period. And Taysom Hill can't be happy about it because basically he contributed to the loss. Fact. And I see that again to remind you, had Jameis Winston made those errors, like that interception, you would have never stopped hearing about it. Jameis Winston did not lose this game. I repeat, Jameis Winston did not lose this game. Sean Payton lost this game. And Taysom Hill lost the game. He threw the pick. He didn't get the 3rd and 2. He could have changed the play. Or could he have? Did they give him an audible package? If you're going to do that? Are they just going to like run him continuously like he's... Well, hey, they're riding him like Zorro, right? Man, oh man. Oh, Cuba Gooding Jr. said that line in Jerry Maguire. When he said it to Tom Cruise, I'm going to ride you like Zorro. Remember that? After he was talking about showing me the money. Showing me the money, right? Maybe they're afraid to show Jameis the money. Maybe it's engineered. Don't talk to me about getting Aaron Rodgers because, hey, look, Aaron, great quarterback as he is, would not just automatically go from the Packers to the Saints after the end of the year. Why? Well, it looks like the Green Bay Packers are starting to do pretty well. So don't even bank on that. The Saints have their guy if they really want him. They need to stop this passive aggression. And that's what it is. They're passive aggressive about Jameis Winston to a fault. And we've seen what that fault yields. All right, folks. I'll be back later. Subscribe to Zenny62, bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com. Comment more. Love to see them. Agree or disagree. We can talk about it. That's what life's all about. Hey, I'm not their offensive coordinator. Wish I was. I'll see you.